Sometimes, life doesn't shift on battlefields or in boardrooms. It shifts quietly at a corner table in a restaurant where no one is watching. There's a story. True or not, it holds truth. A wealthy mother, polished, powerful, respected. She'd earned every dollar, but for all her success, there was one mountain she couldn't move: her son's silence. Diagnosed with autism at a young age, the boy hadn't spoken a word in years. Therapists had tried. Experts had tried. Hope had tried, but silence remained. Then one day, everything changed. Not in a clinic, but in a cafe. A waiter, young, black, unnoticed by most, knelt beside her son while serving their table. He didn't flinch. He didn't look confused or awkward. He simply began, connecting. He looked the boy in the eye. He spoke with rhythm, with patience, with understanding not written in textbooks. And then, the boy responded. A sound, a glance, a pattern. The mother froze. The restaurant faded. The world shifted. What followed was a lesson we should all remember. Never underestimate quiet servants. The man didn't walk into that room with a title or demand attention. He didn't have certificates hanging behind him or accolades echoing his name. He wore an apron. He carried trays. He moved silently through the world, often unseen, often unheard. But in that moment, on that day, he carried something far greater than recognition. He carried understanding, not the kind you read in books or earn through exams, but the kind you gain from living, observing, listening, and loving. The millionaire mother had exhausted everything: doctors, specialists, therapists. She'd traveled across states, paid top dollar, searched for miracles in medical charts and hopeful prescriptions. And yet her son remained locked away in silence, a prisoner of a world no one else could reach. She believed healing had to wear a badge, speak in jargon, or cost more than most could afford. But healing walked in wearing an apron. The waiter didn't come with theories. He came with warmth. He crouched down, not above the child, but beside him. He spoke softly, repeated gently, responded patiently, and then something happened. A spark, a word, a sound, a miracle. The boy responded, not to credentials, not to authority, but to connection, because that's what quiet servants bring. They bring presence. They bring authenticity. They bring unshakable humanity into rooms filled with noise and pressure. In a world that often praises the loudest voices and overlooks the quiet ones, we must remember this. Greatness doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it walks softly, speaks gently, and moves humbly through our lives, changing everything without needing applause. That day, a man the world might overlook did what no one else could. He reached a child's heart. And in doing so, he taught us all a lesson no textbook ever could. You want to make a difference, pay attention. Not the surface-level kind. Not the kind that checks a box or smiles politely while your mind is somewhere else. I mean real attention, the kind that makes a child feel safe enough to be themselves. The kind that tells someone without words, I see you. I value you. You matter right now. That's where change begins. Not with noise, but with noticing. The waiter didn't glance at the child. He didn't toss a quick smile over his shoulder or whisper an apology to the mother before backing away. He paused. He noticed the boy's eyes, not just his silence. He knelt not in pity but in patience. Most people hear the word autism and retreat into discomfort. He moved closer. Most speak louder, thinking volume will bridge the gap. He spoke softer, with care, like each word was a rope tossed across a river of isolation. Most try to fix, to adjust, to mold. He didn't. He simply stayed, present, calm, open, while the mother, wealthy, exhausted, and carrying years of failed attempts, watched in quiet disbelief. She had spent thousands. Doctors, therapists, teachers, but none gave her what she saw that day. Someone who didn't try to change her son, but met him exactly where he was. The boy responded, not with full sentences, not with miracle words, but with connection, with presence, a spark in his eyes, a sound, a smile, something no price tag could buy, because attention, real attention isn't bought, it's offered, freely, intentionally, and when given, even in small moments, it changes everything. You don't need a title to make a difference. You don't need degrees or accolades. You just need the courage to notice and the heart to stay. Service is the highest form of leadership, not because it demands attention, but because it gives it. This man wasn't just taking orders and carrying trays. He was carrying something deeper, an understanding that the heart of leadership lies in humility. While others walked past a struggling child, he knelt down. While others kept moving, he paused. He wasn't just waiting tables, he was watching, listening, seeing what others missed. In the military, we're taught that rank is just fabric and medals are metal. What truly defines a leader is their willingness to get in the trenches with those they lead. Real leaders don't shout orders from a distance. They step in, roll up their sleeves, and lift others up when the weight becomes too heavy. That's exactly what this man did, quietly and without recognition. Not because someone was watching, but because someone needed him. He didn't ask for permission to be kind. He didn't need a title to take action. Maybe it was personal. Maybe he saw a piece of his past in the eyes of that child. Maybe he remembered what it felt like to be overlooked, to be dismissed, to be unseen. And in that moment, he made a choice not to save the world, but to change someone's world. True leadership is never loud. It's not measured in trophies, promotions, or speeches. It's found in the silent moments when no one's applauding, but someone's healing. That's what service is. It's choosing to see, choosing to care, choosing to act, not for credit but for connection. That man didn't just serve a meal. He served hope, and in doing so he reminded us all, if you want to lead, start by serving, because sometimes the smallest gestures carry the greatest weight. The mother returned again and again. Something inside her had changed. It wasn't just about the food anymore. It was about the hope that sat across from her son. The same waiter who had once crouched down to meet her boy's eyes was now kneeling into his world day by day, slowly helping him open doors that no one else could. They became inseparable, not by blood, but by something deeper, a breakthrough forged in patience, presence, and quiet understanding. The boy, once silent, began to speak. His words came slowly, softly, like raindrops after a long drought. First it was hi, then thank you. Then entire thoughts spilled out in smiles and laughter, words stitched together with effort and joy. Each sentence was a celebration, each giggle a miracle. The boy was connecting not just to the waiter, but to the world. What began as a single meal became a mentorship. What started as a kind gesture turned into a transformation. It wasn't therapy or medicine that cracked the silence. It was a human being who chose to show up, not just once, but again and again, who chose to lean in when others leaned away, who chose to see the child, not the diagnosis. Never underestimate the power of a single act. One moment of compassion, one look, one choice to care can rewrite a life story. The ripple of kindness travels further than applause, deeper than recognition, faster than wealth. It touches corners of the heart that even the most powerful hands can't reach. And in the echo of that waiter's simple act, a child found his voice. A mother found her hope. And a world full of strangers discovered that love doesn't need to be loud to be life-changing. Your purpose may not be where you expect it. Sometimes it's hidden in the quiet places, behind the smallest gestures, in the most ordinary moments. That waiter, he didn't go to school for therapy. He didn't have a fancy degree. He just had a heart that noticed what others overlooked. And when that child looked up at him, something changed, not just for the child, but for the man serving tables. He left the restaurant, walked away from tips and familiarity. Took a job working with children with special needs. It paid less, demanded more. But when asked why he did it, he simply said, "This is what I was meant to do." Because when you find your purpose, you stop asking, "How much will it pay?" and start asking, "Who will this help?" See, the world doesn't need more millionaires. It doesn't need more influencers. What it needs is more men and women willing to kneel down beside a struggling child and believe in something bigger than themselves. It needs people who can see past behavior and into hearts, people who can listen with patience, people who show up not because it's easy, but because it matters. So if you're waiting for a sign, for the right job title, for enough savings or recognition, stop. You don't need millions to change a life. You don't need applause to be significant. You don't need permission to make a difference. What you need is the courage to step forward when it's uncomfortable, to act when it's inconvenient, and to keep believing even when there's no spotlight. Because somewhere right now a silent child is waiting, waiting for someone to notice, waiting for someone to stay, waiting for someone who sees what the world doesn't, and maybe, just maybe, they're waiting for you.